myStake, CEO, and I'm here to talk to you about our platform, myStake, as well as talk to you about and introduce you to the Programmable Equity Network. So myStake is a company founded in July 2017. We were spun out of Block8 Technologies. Tim, the CEO of Block8, is here today, and we're very proud of that heritage because, as David mentioned, Block8 is the premier blockchain studio in Australia. And we started off myStake with a view of understanding what it means to be incubated, and Block8 talked a lot about how it's going to track its equity. And myStake came out of this idea, or this problem rather, which is equity sucks. It's hard to track, it's illiquid, and there's no real link to what you're actually doing with it. So myStake originally was formed out of this intention of solving this problem of having a single source of truth and providing a way of having a way of communicating to stakeholders in companies. But as we built Australia's first digital share registry on the Ethereum blockchain, we also learned of a bigger problem, which was that there's no real link between the real world, that is the companies that exist under a regulated regime, and the tokens which we were tokenizing using the myStake platform. And this meant that there was a lack of underpinning value for these assets that we were tokenizing without a fact that if you have a regulated asset, you need to prove that you're doing it on a regulatory regime. And this meant there was a lack of confidence. From this lack of transparency, there was a lack of confidence, and a lack of confidence leads to a lack of liquidity, which means it's hard for investors to trust these assets. It's hard for them to be able to be willing to put up their money and buy your assets if they don't know what you're doing, you're not communicating with them, and there's no way to trade them. And that's really where we saw myStake trying to come into it, and that's where the problem we started to look at to try and solve from Block8.
That's cool.
Oh, bit of crossfeed there.
Check 1, 2. That's just me up the back heated Bridie. Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Guest speaker. So from that first two problems, we looked to build a platform which solved the transparency, the communication gap, and the tokenization aspect. And we built a platform which provides a core share registry. When a company comes on board myStake, we take care of the tokenization, we take care of the asset-backed token process. On top of that, we've built a platform where shareholders and directors and company management can communicate via announcements and investor relations. We also believe that having clear visibility into your stake, hence the name, myStake, meant that you had to have a very visually pleasing platform where you could see what percentage you owned and have that communication come through a mobile app. Finally, we integrated with the ASIC register so that all your compliance is automated. I'm very pleased to say that myStake is Australia's first virtual ASIC agent on the market today. And we've had a number of key achievements. I remember back in March last year, we presented to Sid Ethereum this prototype idea of making tokens and putting them on the Ethereum blockchain based on equity. And then we deployed it to testnet at the end of last year. But since we've launched our first product, the digital corporate binder, and then integrated with ASIC, we've seen significant uptake from startups and other companies here in Australia. And as of today, we have over 100 companies using us either as a share register, their ASIC agent, or as an investor relations, or all of the above. And that ranges from two-man startups who just want to make sure they're ready to be invested in, all the way through to complex, unlisted public companies with multitudes of shareholders. But remember that problem I spoke about earlier, and it's a key problem that we're seeing in security token land today, which is this lack of liquidity. And while myStake solved that first problem really well, which was that lack of transparency and the communication gap, and also provides that link. Oh, well, that's really blinding. But connects the real-world assets to the token itself. We saw a bigger opportunity, which was let's put this into a framework that anyone can connect to, and that's where programmable equity comes in. It's an open source blockchain protocol aimed at providing a framework for anyone to securitize and link their tokens to real-world assets, where you can create liquidity for your company in the real world through internal exchanges, so shareholder to shareholder only, or through connecting to best-in-class exchanges such as T0, for example. The biggest thing we wanted to do was fill that gap, though, which is the control over the shares themselves and the proof that these are indeed regulated tokens. And that's why we call it programmable equity, because you can digitize the rules of your company and then ensure that those tokens bound by the smart contract are following those rules. So we see programmable equity as potentially the infrastructure to be used as an STO platform and as its registrar. And our vision very much is to use myStake as the on-ramp so that you have this adoption through companies using a regular Web 2.0 style interface to connect and reap the benefits of the blockchain. And that's where we really see the future today. So big picture, there's been a lot of talk about STOs. It's not a new concept, it's a very big concept, and we've already got some very big players over in the US today, Harbor and Polymath. And between the two of them, they've raised about $500 million to launch STOs over in the States. As David mentioned, there's the Malta Digital Exchange launching, and T0 is another one. And they're great exchanges, but we feel that programmable equity fills that gap in between the exchange where you can transact and realize the value of your assets and the real-world company and corporation where the regulator exists. We also think that the real opportunities in Asia-Pacific, where the fastest-growing regions are. So one model we're looking to do was to allow companies, allow partners overseas to franchise myStake, use that as its on-ramp, and connect to the Programmable Equity Protocol and connect to the Programmable Equity Network. So for us today, it's really exciting because we're already in market, we've already got a product, people already get value out of using us as their registrar, but we want to open up the opportunities that the security token wave provides. And right now, we're fundraising an initial seed round just to help build and initially demonstrate a beta version of the Programmable Equity Network built on Ethereum. This will be used to power internal liquidity markets for shareholders, and myStake, our own company, will be the first to do this to benefit our own shareholders so they can realize some liquidity in their investments. We will then also roll out to select partner companies to both demonstrate the value of having liquidity, but also the power of programmable equity. From there, we feel that by demonstrating this, we can follow up a second fundraise, again, follow up with tokens and equity structure, and then launch the full Programmable Equity Network and the Programmable Equity Network token that powers that network. We really believe in having an open platform that can be adopted by any system, and we really believe that rather than try to compete with others, we want to connect to the best-in-class exchanges too, because ultimately, when we expand overseas, when we look at overseas markets like Singapore, like in the US, the UK, at the end of the day, what matters when we talk about STOs is the regulation themselves. But for us today, we just want to say thank you for listening. I hope I've given you enough of a taste of the programmable equity. If you want to learn more, please go to pe.network and read our white paper and read about what we're doing, or sign up your company to myStake and use us as your register. Happy to give you a coupon code afterwards as well. If you're interested in joining our seed fundraise and being one of the first to see and realize the benefits of greater liquidity in your equity, please speak to myself, Tim, or Tobias for more information. Otherwise, thank you for listening tonight.